Welcome back to Young and Excellent. It's been such a fantastic journey so far. Almost a year. Can you believe it? Almost a year of Young and Excellent already. And we're so thankful to the community for constantly showing up, constantly hitting that like button, constantly subscribing, and seeing all of the email blasts from the Sarnia Journal. Speaking of the Sarnia Journal, you should definitely subscribe to their email blasts because they are fantastic and they keep you in the know, and a community in the know is definitely amazing. So shout out to them. Thank you for sponsoring us, uplifting us, making sure that we're doing the thing, whatever that thing is. And yeah, we just love you guys. So thank you so much, Sarnia Journal. If you're tuning into this week's episode, we are joined by the one, the only, Max Major. He is so fantastic, and he's an advocate for our community, and we absolutely adore him. And this conversation, I had no idea where it was going to go, but we talk about like men's mental health, we go into Magic the Gathering, we talk about the importance of community. This is like a hard-hitting, most like heartfelt conversation I've had on this show, and I absolutely loved it, and I hope all of you enjoy it. Make sure to hit that like button. Well, welcome to the show, Max.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's fantastic to have you on. Obviously, I know your voice, but I've never met the man behind the voice until last weekend at the expo. Yeah, here you are. So tell me about yourself. What's your favorite thing about yourself?
About me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm empathetic and I try to be kind to others, and that's a nice thing.
I love that. I hear that in your voice even through the radio, and I would love to know, like, how did you get involved with the radio?
I got involved in radio, well, because I love music and I don't shut up. It just seemed like a good mix.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was actually back when, what is it even called now? Great Lakes, when it was St. Clair.
Oh, yeah, St. Clair, yeah.
I got in through a co-op, because like, how can I find a way to not have to do school and also have fun on school time and work towards a credit of some kind? Mm-hmm. Cool, radio station. So I went over there, did a co-op through that. Turns out I had an aptitude for it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was a big deal too, because back then I was making like $10 an hour in high school, which back then was huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was fun, and like one of the first big claims to fame I ever had was interviewing Steven Tyler from Aerosmith.
What?
Yeah, when he was here for Bayfest. I was on summer patrol, and they made me go back to the radio station early. So I had to miss half the concert because they're like, just keep everyone entertained while they're backed up in traffic.
Oh my God, I love that.
So I had to go back. I was all bummed. I missed half the show, and I was giving it my all because I was just a high school kid who had a microphone in front of him. And then the next day, Rob Jenkins is backstage for Def Leppard. Yeah. And I get a call back at the studio. I'm working the board, and Steven Tyler's agent is on the phone. Hey, can I speak to Max Major? What?
They name dropped you?
Yeah, Steven Tyler wanted to talk to me. He heard the guys, the band was listening to me on the way out of town in the limo.
What a Wayne's World moment.
It was. And like, here's the thing too, you weren't allowed to look at them backstage.
Yeah.
If you were backstage, you weren't allowed to approach them, talk to them, anything, or they wouldn't go on.
Yeah.
So they reached out after and wanted to talk to me.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that was the craziest thing. I've got the audio to this day, like saved on a hard drive.
Well, Steven Tyler, if you want to come back, we can do like a three-way interview, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, my pal, I'm still totally in contact with and talk to all the time.
His name's Max Major, my name's MadFish. Thank you.
But yeah, after that moment, it was like, this could be my job. So I went into it. And I've been in radio. I was in radio for about 13 years, up until about 2 years ago. And now I'm out of radio.
That is so cool, though. So you spent so much time in radio. Yeah. And so you're very passionate about it, obviously.
Yes.
But what brought you back every year? Because radio, I feel like those years that you were there was kind of falling off. Oof, God, my voice went somewhere. Falling off a little bit. So what kept you coming back?
Yeah, I liked the music. I usually managed to, like, a lot of times you sometimes have to work for a station you don't like the music for.
Yeah.
And I did that. It was weird coming off a Miley Cyrus song or whatever, like when I was up north doing radio up in Kirkland Lake and Timmins and stuff.
Oh, wow.
But my goal was to always come back to Sarnia. And, K106.3 was the station I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
So to actually be able to helm the morning show was a gigantic honor, and still play Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Pink Floyd and all these bands I really liked. And the community, like, to be honest, to be on the radio is to be an invited guest into people's homes.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
I learned it in college, and it kind of stuck with me.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know where your voice is coming out of at any given time. So try to treat it like that. Like you are an invited guest into somebody's home. You're sitting at their breakfast table with them. How would you act? How would you speak?
Well, and that's like celebrity. You know what I mean? Because like I feel like I always idolized Sarah and George from Fox when I was a kid.
And they're great people too.
And they're great people. When I met them, when I was doing my rebound job, I almost had like a fangirl moment, and I tried to really contain it. But like your voice really does come through into those homes, and you are a celebrity. Whether you like it or not, you kind of are.
Well, yeah. I always joke and say a Z-grade Sarnia celebrity, but to this day, I've been out of radio for 2 years, and there's still people who stop me and say, hey, I remember you. I miss you. I you know, that kind of stuff. And that, it's nice. It's always nice to know I didn't overstay my welcome.
No, yeah, like for sure, because I remember your voice. I didn't listen to K106.3.
That's the one.
There you go. I didn't listen to it as much, but I know your voice.
Yeah.
And that's so funny to me because I'm just like, that's just so crazy how like the world has changed so much. Like Spotify's kind of taken over and all this kind of stuff. But my generation still grew up with radio. And even just your voice is like, oh my God, it's a little touch of my childhood.
I laughed because I was on Reddit the one day, and some young kid was like, man, they should make like a 24-hour podcast that you can just tune into whenever you want. And someone just commented, you mean radio? Like that's what it was. It was a 24-hour podcast. There was always a live human being on all times of the night that you could tune into when you're working the graveyard shift or when you're, so I guess if you want to try and repackage radio for a young generation, just call it a 24-hour podcast and... Yeah, there you go. Tune into it.
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny. So why did you leave radio?
There's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into every reason.
Oh, that's okay. You don't have to share.
But one reason in particular I can definitely get into for fun is everyone lost their minds during the pandemic and things got hot. Yeah. There were people that wanted me dead.
What?
Oh, yeah. What? Do you remember the Leaky Tank, that restaurant?
Oh, I remember Leaky Tank.
Remember their whiteboard?
Yeah.
Yeah, twice I made that whiteboard.
You made that whiteboard?
Oh, they wanted me, by name, hung for war crimes and propaganda because I was telling people to wear masks and vaccinate and,
my God.
Oh, it was weird. And I was just about to have my daughter. Yeah. And it was like, all it takes is one psychopath to think that they can better society by removing me from it. Like, things got nuts during the convoy, which I didn't even talk about. Yeah. But you can't even not talk about it because if you don't talk about it, they get angry. Oh my gosh. So you couldn't even just avoid it. You couldn't win. So, I remember during the convoy, a bunch of those people came to the back of the radio station. They were up against the window, like Night of the Living Dead, and it was like, well, I guess I'm stuck here for a bit until you guys leave because I'm not going out there into
that. Must have been terrifying.
Oh, it was unnerving. Like, just people were starting to get crazier. Yeah. And you know what? I kind of brought a bit of it on myself, and I'm fine to admit that because I'm a member of this community. Mm-hmm. And every morning I had to wake up and put a microphone in my face and talk about things. Yeah. And during the pandemic and the vaccinations and the convoy or whatever crazy stuff happened in the last 4 years. Yeah. I couldn't help myself but point out and call out things I didn't like. When I saw people acting a certain way or people saying a certain thing, it irked me. And I took a swing. And what did they do? They swung back. And turns out I don't like fighting. It's not very... I'm more of a hugger. I'm
You're a peaceful man.
Yes, I'm not someone who likes to take shots. I just couldn't help but point out things that I didn't like seeing in our community.
Good on you though, because you have a platform. And you have probably 3 generations that know you and know your voice and know your name. And you are a face of the community, whether you like it or not. Even on radio, you're still a face of the community. So good on you for using your platform to speak your mind. I feel like more people should, but escalation to violence is very scary.
Yeah, it just, the heat got too hot. It wasn't something I was really interested in at that time. So that was one of the reasons, one of the contributing factors.
Yeah, I can understand. I would have got out of Dodge too.
Yeah. Things were getting a little nutty, but I don't know. I felt like I had a responsibility, so I did it, and I learned a lot about myself in those last 4 years. I had a good long radio career. I actually made it to 10 years as the morning show for K106.3. So I was like good round number.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people my age who are in their like mid-30s, late 30s, I find that there is kind of an itch sometimes to change careers, see what else you can do.
Absolutely.
So there was a bit of that too. It was just like, what else can I do in this community? I really liked having people from the community on my show to talk about their charity events or their initiatives or things like that. That was a lot of fun. The last big thing I did on air was the sign war.
Oh, sign war. I loved the sign war. The sign war was fantastic.
That was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I would do like the World War II style like war reports. Like, shots fired from, this place. And I better get the fisticuffs up. It's going to be anyways, like that was a ton of fun. And it went legit viral. It got like 1 million.
Yeah, it was like people,
made news.
My friends up in Toronto heard about it. They were like, well, you guys having a sign war? I was like, yep, Sarnia's representing. Let's go. Like, it's the best.
We didn't represent. We basically started that
trend. You did.
Yeah, it was down in like Virginia, and I saw it, and I was like, if I bootstrap this thing here, that could be a lot of fun because we're all in lockdown and want to kill each other. So maybe we should have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. No, people did go stir crazy for real.
So it was cool. Like, so I felt pretty good. I had interviewed a lot of like big celebrities. I had done a big viral post. I had I felt pretty accomplished as a radio.
You made your stamp.
Yeah, I felt good. So it was time for me to kind of look into other things. So now I'm over at Express Employments, and I help people find work, or at least try to.
Which is God's work at this point, because man, oh man, it is hard to find a job.
The job market this year has been psychotic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone I'm talking to is either downsizing or letting people go, but there are some trends in the right direction.
Yeah.
With inflation being announced that it's down, they're hoping the prime rate goes down. If that goes down, some companies will have more spending power. I'm thinking that we're starting to move in a good direction.
I think so too.
But it's too early for me to call it.
It's going to depend on the election. It's going to depend on so many things that are upcoming for us.
So many factors.
Yeah, there's too many at this point, and it is kind of a scarier world. But I love that you had a passion for people coming on and promoting community, and now you've transitioned into being like a kind of promoter for yourself in the community to like make sure people are getting access to what they need. Like, that is amazing. Like, what a cool shift, but it also kind of has the same undertones of what you were doing in radio.
I like people.
Yeah,
I try to like people.
Sometimes it's hard, especially when like you're on a whiteboard.
We all have our moments, but for the most part, yes. Like, people come to Express when they are at their most vulnerable, when the bottom's dropped out, or maybe they've just moved to the community and don't know anybody. Yeah. And are looking for some direction. So it's nice whenever you can connect those dots when a company comes to us at just the right time, looking for just what this person can do. Yeah. And you go, okay, here, like. Yeah. Here you go.
It's kind of like a job matchmaker.
That's basically what it is. So it's neat trying to read people quickly enough to be able to try and figure out whether or not they would be a good fit for a client that needs what they can do. Yeah.
That's going to be such a tricky thing to do sometimes, though, because you have to meet the employer standards while also understanding what the person's strengths are. And then you don't want to set someone up for failure by putting them into the wrong job. How do you juggle that?
I just try to be upfront. Like, I've heard, when I first signed on with Express, I heard plenty of people say, they never did anything for me. And I kind of wanted to get ahead of that from the start. So whenever I interview or talk to anybody, I just lay it out straight. I don't keep any cards close to the chest. You might hear from me tomorrow because a company's looking for what you can do. Yeah. You may never hear from me again. It all depends on what the jobs are coming through and who's looking for work at any given time. Yeah. I try to just let them know that I got eyes on you, basically. You've got someone else who's kind of looking on your behalf. And I try to coach a little bit too. I work in labor. Yeah. So it's like, hey, if you get in front of anyone who's interviewing you before I have a chance to line you up with a job, talk about how reliable you are, about how if you're not early, you're late. Yeah. Talk about how you have a great attitude and you want to learn not only what the job is, but how they do it.
You got the cheat codes.
Well, it's what I hear. When I talk to companies, like, hey, do you need any help? I've got a great person looking for work who can do X, Y, and Z. A lot of times they'll say, like, I'm having a lot of trouble, especially with the younger generation right now. a lot of no-call, no-shows, a lot of bad attitudes, walking onto a job site, telling me how to do my job.
It's
like
a
that
different world now.
Yeah.
And our generations are kind of hitting, like, we're getting butting heads, absolutely, 100%, with this new mentality that you are not your job, with this old mentality of, like, but we have to maintain the systems that we have, so show up. It's a very interesting...
You kind of, that's one half of one of my favorite employment quotes, is that you are not your job, your life is what allows you to live your job is not your life, your job is what allows you to live your life.
Yeah.
And that, I always like that kind of, when you're having a bad day at work or whatever, it just remember that like, this is just a piece of your self and not the entirety of your identity. Yeah. Which is funny because, again, as someone who transitioned out of an industry that literally that was my identity and still kind of is.
Yeah, I was going to say, your radio personality must help you in your new field, because I think I've used like promoting before, but I think I'd rather change the promoting word that I use in terms of advocating. I feel like you're advocating for people.
Yeah.
And I feel like on the radio, you kind of do that too a little bit, don't you?
Well, that's why I guess sales technically was one of my transferable skills, because
that's fair.
Because in radio, that's what you were doing. I had to sell you on why you needed to listen through this song to the next thing I'm going to talk about.
Yeah.
I had to sell you on why you need to go to our website and enter a contest. I need to sell you on why you need to go down to Centennial Park and do this charity event or whatever.
Yeah.
Everything is sales in a way.
Well, and you have such a great energy for it too. That's something I've always known about you through the community, because I kind of left when you took over a little bit. Like, I was like in and out because I was up in Toronto and everything, and everyone would always talk about how like you would show up to those things too. Like, you yourself would make sure that you were there. Yep. And you were like 10 toes in the ground supporting everybody.
And I still am at all kinds of things. So that's something I didn't do just because of radio. I love this community. This is a great place to grow up and live. And there's so much negativity around it. I'm just,
And I have to say, I've contributed to the negativity. I'm back on the bus with positivity now, though.
Yeah, there's a place for both. There's criticism. And then there's just like bile, like vitriol, that kind of just toxic. There's a difference. There's a difference between critiquing. Because you want something to be even better than something you think is great. And then just like, just spitting venom.
I would love to know why do you care so much about this community? It's like I can see the passion in you and I love it, but like, why?
It's kind of that small town mentality. Just knowing so many, it's people that make everything, right? If you think a company's great, it's because the people made it that way. And if you think a town's great, it's because the people made it that way. I've met so many great people with differing opinions and stuff that I can have civil discourse with, and it's nice. No, we have so many creative. Even now, like I'm old now. Like I'm really glad.
You're old.
Well, I'm glad you invited me, because like to me, it's like I think I'd be more of a fit for the media, like the middle-aged and mediocre podcast. But like,
we've heard that so many times, especially from like older men, and I'm so surprised by that. I feel like I see everyone as so fantastic, and I think young is so subjective.
I just found grays like for the first time.
I have so many grays. Don't even worry.
Fair enough. But yeah, like when it comes to the community and the people that make it up, and that's really what it is. I had to bounce around in radio. I had to move to Kirkland Lake, Ontario, a tiny mining town of like 8,000 people, and I had to, okay, town, I'm me. Who wants to be my friend? Who wants to, I joined like baseball teams. I'm a nerd, so I play a lot of like Magic the Gathering and stuff.
I love Magic.
So, what?
Oh yeah, I love Magic.
Put a pin in that for a second. But that was a great way to meet people. And there's great communities. Timmins, Belleville, like I did radio there and it was great, but there was just something that drew, like I wanted to be here. I wanted to come back here. And there are, like, I see it all the time. So many great people, even the young generation coming up, the ideas they have for events for businesses and for things like that.
There's so much life. There's so much life.
And potential.
And I feel like there was something when I was younger that was always the Sarnia curse. I don't know if you've heard of the Sarnia curse. It's like, I think it was like more so in like my upbringing. The Sarnia curse is once you leave Sarnia, you will always come back. It's like a boomerang almost. It's like no matter what you do, it will suck you back in.
It does have a way of drawing you back.
And I was determined. I was like, I am never turning back. Once I'm in Toronto, I'm done. Like I don't belong in Sarnia. Sarnia doesn't love me. Like all this different stuff. I just like narratives I would play in my head as like a teenager. And then COVID happened.
Yeah.
and I was sucked back in.
Yeah.
And I literally was like, this is the Sarnia curse. The Sarnia curse has caused this world pandemic, and I am sucked back into Sarnia, and now I'm like the most grateful person for being sucked back into Sarnia.
Well, I've watched your talks with people I know.
Yeah.
Like whenever I see someone like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, you.
Hey,
what are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'll come watch that. And so that's neat that like you reluctantly came back to the community.
I did.
But you're still here. You're not clawing to get out.
No.
You found something to stay for.
Yeah.
And you found people to stay for, and you meet new people through this probably all the time.
All the time. And it makes you feel connected. And I feel like community connection is actually more important than where you live. I feel like connecting with the people around you is so crucial.
I read a lot about how like loneliness is not just a mental epidemic, but like a physical epidemic.
Yeah.
Like it affects people profoundly, and in this day and age people are making less connections. They're meeting people less. They're receding into I'm a nerd, so
No, I get it.
Japan, everything.
Yeah,
but
that's fine.
they have this thing called a hikikomori, or a NEET, not in education, employment, or training. NEET.
Yeah.
And people are becoming more like that, like just moving in with their parents, giving up, not meeting people, not getting out, not dating, not all their friends are online. Like it's just and I mean, if you can do that and get by, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying that I find a lot of people aren't connecting the way that we used to, that human kind of face-to-face connection.
I feel like it's because there's a shift. Sorry, I cut you off.
No.
What were you going to say?
No.
Okay, perfect. I was just like, whoops. But I feel like it's because there's a huge shift because we've had so many world political movements. Like we've had the feminism movement, we had the Black Civil Rights movement, we've had all these things that have been dismantling the systems that we used to rely on. And I feel like now there's this huge pendulum shift to like, you know, social media and like meeting people online and technology, which is fantastic. But even just our social rules are different. Like how men and women treat each other is so different now. And how do we navigate that?
Yeah, you mentioned that, and that's. I think you touched on something important, which is like these are just some of the ways we fragmented. Like I feel like I don't know. Back in the '70s, like were we just a big homogenous group? We all watched the same news.
A big sexist,
everyone watched the same
homogenous group.
Well, but everyone like watched the same news. Everyone kind of like watched the same shows. There was a common language you could speak. Whereas now everything's micro-targeted, right? If you want this, and this, there's a podcast that's exactly talking about that. And if you want your news to tell you that this is the bad guy and this is the good guy, you can just follow that news and then there you go. You're in your own little echo chamber of
and that's what's happening, is an echo chamber. And I feel like it's really disheartening to see the younger generation growing up with this echo chamber, because like now masculinity is not a good thing, femininity is not a good thing, nothing is a good thing anymore. And these systems that we've built, like, you know, that are just so like socially ingrained in us don't work anymore. And so now we're like making people feel shame and guilt about who they are.
Yeah.
And it's just wild.
There's a lot of that going around.
Yeah.
It's funny. I did watch there's a fella on YouTube. I get some of my info from YouTubers.
Hey.
But I liked what he was talking about. He was talking about like the role of men and how it has changed and how a lot of men are lost these days, young boys and men, because you know, you're right. Back in the day, it was not the right way to go about it, but men were just prescribed. You have a role. This is your role. This is what you do.
Yeah.
And now without that, I find that like I even struggle with it as a modern man. Not a very manly one at that. But still, like the role of a father, the role of a husband, the role of a man in 2024. What are you like? It would have been nice to have that handed to me, but not at the expense of everyone who didn't have a role back in the day. It's just interesting. You're right. We are kind of in like a transitory period.
Yeah. And I feel like we're leaving men behind sometimes. I feel like that. Sometimes I feel like I was listening to a podcast, it's Diary of CEO. He had a men's health expert on, and he has a center for boys and men.
Yeah, that's probably the same guy.
Oh my gosh.
That's probably the guy. I don't know his name, but yeah.
I don't know his name either, but he's so fantastic.
He said boys and men 5 billion times. Yeah. More than boys to men probably say.
Boys to men.
But yeah, I think it's the same guy.
No,
actually.
I love his ideology and his outlook, because he's not saying we need to go back.
No, he's not saying men need to be on top. He's just saying as we transition, we need to remember what the role of men, like we need to be able to help them navigate this, and because it's not just there anymore. You don't just.
And the role of men is so beautiful. Like, this is something I had to really learn because I didn't really grow up with, like, a dad around. I grew up with, like, a household of all women. And, like, you do notice when a man is around and the difference in energies and how it balances out. And diversity also needs to include everybody. You can't just take out men and then that's a diverse group. Yeah. It's like, no, then actually it's not diversity at all. Men need to be included in diversity. And I feel like the balance in leadership, if you have a CEO who's a woman, maybe your CFO should be a man. It doesn't matter like what race they're from, but having that balance of how you approach things and what is in our masculine, what is in our feminine, and having that balance even just within yourself is so important.
It's funny you mentioned that because I was thinking this is going to date this horribly.
Hey, that's okay.
But, like, you know, Joe Biden just dropped out in the States.
Oh, my God,
and you got Kamala Harris, who's now going to probably be the president, like, or at least the Democratic nominee.
Yeah.
So now she needs a vice president. I was thinking, I'm like, will she go woman-woman? Like, will it be vice president woman and president woman? Because that's never been done.
Yeah.
Or do you have to put a man in? So you've got, like, the man-woman? Like,
is that
too extreme for right now? And
Yeah.
I don't know who she's going to pick, but that was one of those funny moments where it's like, I wonder, like, what is the best course, or what would work best, or
and that's the thing too. In the workplace, they often say that masculine energy is risk taking, and then feminine energy is more like that. Like, no, we need to make sure we're being, like, you know, timely and making sure we pay bills and not taking too many risks so that we're stable. And so I think gender doesn't really have a lot to do with it. It's more of like, what is your energy in a workplace? Like, are you more risk taking, which is more masculine?
And I appreciate that because I'm not like I'm by all means the least manly man you will ever meet. I've got the hair, like the hair. I've got the tackle, but like I'm not like stereotypically. I'm not handy. I've never been in a fight in my life. Yeah. I avoid confrontation. Yeah. I'm a soft boy. Like it's just that plays Magic the Gathering. I'm not. I can't build your deck. Yeah. I'm not even good to supervise it. Like I am not. So it's nice to hear that. Like there are like vibes and like they have different places.
Yeah, and they have different places, and everything is needed. Like everything is needed, and I feel like a lot of times, like in this transitionary period, it is helpful for men who don't follow that script or don't fall in line with what was prescribed to men.
Case in point, when it comes to women, you play Magic the Gathering.
I do!
Sorry, I don't mean to hijack it, but like I don't know how much time we have, and if I could geek out for a second.
No, I love Magic. So Nick introduced me, my fiance introduced it to me, and I remember just like the first game, I was like, this is the most fun I have ever had playing a card game before. And it reminded me of Pokemon. I grew up with Pokemon all the time.
Well, yeah, even I started with Pokemon cards.
Exactly.
Like, I was back for Gen 1, and then... Yeah, so everyone usually has like an older brother that's like has a shoebox full of like these rad-looking like Lord of the Rings-esque cards, and it's like, what's that?
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you get into Magic? Through Pokemon, obviously, but what else?
Older brother, like no, I don't have an older brother, but like Buddy's older brother with cards, and already having Pokemon, and it just kind of all fit. Just it fed my nerddom.
Yeah.
But I was playing back in like the day back in high school,
nice.
So there was no Commander. Like I'm assuming you play Commander. Like the 100 card decks, Are we checking? Is it Commander? Is it EDH?
Like again, like I play Magic, but I'm not like I'm just introduced into it. So yeah.
So Commander, that's what I play. That's what brought me back to the game.
Oh, nice.
4-player cards. I just like how much you can express yourself. Like I have a whole 100-card deck that's just like death metal themed.
Oh, I love that.
It's not meant to be good. It's just all the art is the most brutal death metal-y kind of stuff ever. It's black-red. It's just meant to just be brutal. Like
that's a good aesthetic.
Yeah. And I find it fun how you can express yourself through these decks you can build. And I love meeting new people. Like going back to just cool people in town. I've met so many people through that.
Oh, future pastimes. Shout out to you,
Trent,
honestly.
You're a rock star. But seriously, I remember being a kid going to future pastimes, realizing I could just buy singles and like, wow, you've got this crazy card. I want that in my deck. And him helping to like help you. Like if you don't know what you want to build, like I want my deck to do this. Cool. Here's 5 cards I've got that'll do that.
Yeah, absolutely. See, my thing, what I love Magic with so much, I love to fight. Like, I'm a fighter.
Okay.
Like, I know, it's like, again, I have a lot of masculine energy in me, so that's why it's funny. But, like, I love to fight, and I tried kickboxing, and I loved it, but I noticed how many bruises I was getting, and because I do theater, I can't really have that many bruises on me while I'm on stage.
Yeah.
Because then people are gonna be like, what's going on with this lady? And so I was like, how do I get this energy out? And so when I did magic, I just felt my whole body come alive as soon as I would kill something. I'd be like, this is exactly what I've been waiting for my whole life.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
tap 7 mana,
yeah, exactly.
and I'm gonna blow up the board.
I have a war in front of me, and I get to be the commander of it, and
Yeah.
I get to just like go to town, and it feels incredible. That's
a lot
what
of
I
fun.
love about it. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So when it comes to Magic, there are many different ways to play it, but the way you're playing Commander, I suggest to anybody who just wants to try a little bit of strategy, get their gears turning a bit, and it's social. More social than Magic used to be back in the day, because it would just be one-on-one.
Yeah.
To have a group of 4 people, it's almost like a poker vibe, but again, way nerdier.
Yeah, I've only done one-on-one. I've always wanted to do like open it up. I'm sure we will one day. But
You have my number.
there you go.
Seriously,
Give him a call up.
I got a buddy Coop. He's always up for it. Let's throw some cards.
Okay, I love how you like. I have a buddy Coop. I don't know why, but that just made my heart just so happy.
Well, he's always down for cards. It's just like I've always got 2. It's finding the other like player 3 and 4 that I've always got 1 and 2 down. 3 and 4 are harder to.
But I love that because that's such a Sarnia thing, I find. Not my buddy Coop, like that name specifically, but whenever I speak to anybody about Sarnia and like someone has a passion or hobby, oh, I got a buddy. Like I like, you know what I mean? I love that. Oh my God.
Human connections. They're a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're wrapping up this interview. Before we go into the first question, what would you like to promote right now? Do you have anything on the horizon that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, this is very hot ones.
Yeah.
Camera.
Talk
to the people. Well, I this is the 10th and probably last year I'm doing the 24-hour video game marathon.
Oh, yeah.
So me and my buddy Daryl Heater. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I love Daryl. Shout out to Daryl. I miss you, Daryl.
It's good people.
Oh, I
met him through the theater scene. Which we don't have time to talk about, but theater, awesome. So we started a 24-hour video game marathon, just a bunch of man-children raising money for actual children.
Love it.
Which
it's the best.
Which of course we didn't use that tagline because we started to get women involved, and we have because women game too, and so we had women and men gamers
just children.
So Black Friday, I believe it is the 29th, November 29th this year, but if I'm wrong, it's the last Friday in November. We're taking over Imperial City for like one last time. Mark Tatro and like the action figures are going to play us because they're a big nerd band. So again, nerd band, 4 guys trapped in a brewery for 24 hours raising money for a children's charity.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get a charity magic card tournament during the day at Imperial City going as well.
I'll kill everyone.
Shout out to over at Total Play, Steve Perger.
Oh yeah,
been a huge help every year. So he's doing like a nerd market magic card tournament, nerd band, 4 guys live streaming video games for 24 hours locked in there. It's everything nerd in one place.
I love nerd.
And we're trying to raise $10,000 at least for St. Clair Child and Youth Services.
Oh, nice.
We've been with them for the last 7 years, and mental health, especially children's mental health, and children in our community having free access to mental health and addiction counseling. I think it's very important. We think it's very important. So if you think it's very important, please come to the Playing for Charity 24-hour video game marathon on maybe November 29th. I took my phone out of my pocket. Whenever the last Friday is in November, that's where we're going to be at Imperial City, and we would love to see you there. So that's definitely the thing I would like to promote. Yes, nerd life is the best life, so please join. I almost said us, because I'll be there probably, because I really want to go now. Join us. You sold it very well. I kind of do that. I've been told I do that anyway, so that's nice. Okay, well, thank you so much. I hope to see everybody there. All right, now on to our final question now. Yes. If you could go back to young Max Major and give him any word of advice, like high school age, if you can give him any advice, what would you say to him? I don't know. I luckily don't have too many regrets, so it's not really like a, hey, avoid this or do that. Well, that never works in the time. I find the thing that makes me happiest in life is treating life like a bingo card. Like it's like I just have to try and punch off as many things as possible. So I guess I would just kind of pass that along at an earlier age. Just do things, experience things, try to do as many varied things as you can. I pigeonholed myself very hard into Magic the Gathering and nerd stuff, but like since then I've I've climbed a mountain. I've jumped out of an airplane. I've put myself in uncomfortable situations just in the name of trying to diversify the human experience.
Yeah.
I had a child.
Yeah.
Like just these things that like just when I'm done and I want to look back at my life, at least I can say I tried a lot, did a lot. So I guess I would tell myself to just treat life like a bingo card and get at everything you can while you can.
I love that. Play the life of bingo, or the bingo of life. I don't know which one. But yeah, I love that.
Keeps me still in the game, so yeah.
Keeps you young, keeps you excellent. Oh wow, look at that. Put it.
Look at that. Yeah, that's what you call, you came all the way around.
Full circle.
We can't keep talking. That has to be the end.
That has to be the end.
That's it.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. Credits.
If you're tuning into this, oh, I clapped. Can't clap around the mic.
Can't clap around the mic.
I keep clapping around the mic. Clap, clap, clap.